You've heard it before. Some dude in a damn Patagonia vest sipping a $12 green juice goes,
"Oh, nobody wants to work anymore."
Meanwhile, it's 2 p.m. on a Tuesday, and he's somehow not working either. Sus, right? Are millennials quietly Googling how to fake your own death and move to Portugal? Wait, hold on. Roll the clip.
Once upon a time in America, people worked. They clocked in. They clocked out. They died inside, but silently. And now?
So you're telling me no one wants to work anymore?
I will literally eat drywall before I work at Dollar Tree for $8.50 an hour.
It's not laziness. It's late-stage capitalism with a side of depression.
You know what's crazy, though? Every generation thinks the next one is soft.
Back in my day, we built the Colosseum with our bare hands.
Yeah, and back in your day, a loaf of bread cost a nickel, and you could buy a house with pocket lint. Times changed, Grandpa. Now boomers say kids don't want to work. But the real question is, do they want to work? Or do they just not want to be financially waterboarded by minimum wage? Gen Z isn't lazy. They just figured out what boomers didn't. Working yourself to death is not a flex. As of April 2025, the overall labor force participation rate in the US stood at 62.6%, reflecting a generational low. This decline is more pronounced among men, with the male labor force participation rate at 68% in April 2025. Historically, the participation rate for prime-age men ages 25 to 54 peaked at 98% in 1954, but has steadily declined to 88% by January 2024. Contrastingly, the unemployment rate has remained low at 4.2% in April 2025. This suggests that while fewer people are participating in the labor force, those actively seeking employment are generally able to find jobs, which, according to economists, aka people who use the word macroeconomic unironically, means people should be able to find jobs easily. So, why aren't they? Ready for some emotional damage?
Emotional damage!
Only 18% of Americans say they feel engaged at work. People hate their jobs so much they'd rather speedrun unemployment than deal with mandatory team building and casual Friday where Steve from accounting shows up in flip-flops. Again, restaurants, retail, warehouses, they're begging for workers, but everyone's like, do I want to sweat for 8 hours so I can afford half an avocado? Nah. Guys, I browsed the job listings today, and suddenly starting an OnlyFans doesn't sound like a bad retirement plan. Aren't you tired of these job posts? Let's have a moment of silence for all the jobs you applied to. That never emailed back, ghosted you like a bad Tinder date, and probably hired the CEO's underqualified nephew instead. Let's play a game. It's called, Is This a Job Posting or a Hostage Negotiation? Welcome back to Billionomics, the game show. For 100 points, contestants, tell us, which of these is a real job requirement? A, must have 10 years experience in a software that's only existed for 5. B, willing to work weekends, holidays, and possibly during natural disasters. C, bachelor's degree required to greet customers at the front desk. D, all of the above? Lock in your answers now in the comments and let us know. Gen Z saw what was coming and was like,
No sir, not me!
it's not that people don't want to work. It's that the job market is acting like that one ex who says, I've changed, then offers you $13 an hour and no benefits. There are two big camps in this fight. Camp Boomerville and Camp Overworked and Underpaid. Camp Boomerville are your classic back-in-my-day warriors, blaming Gen Z and their Wi-Fi brains for not wanting to work 12-hour shifts for a free soda and back pain.
Lazy kids.
Camp Overworked and Underpaid are more of people who say,
I'm not lazy. I just don't want to break my spine for $9 an hour while Karen screams at me about her coupon. Hell no.
These two camps may disagree on everything from music to mayonnaise brands, but they agree on one thing. Nobody wants to work, just for very different reasons. Boomers would say,
My husband worked 2 jobs and bought our house at 22.
Gen Z would respond and be like,
I worked 2 jobs and bought a 2014 Honda Civic with 140K miles and no AC. So what are you talking about, lady?
You could work full-time at McDonald's in 1982 and pay rent, feed a family, and go bowling on weekends. Now, you can work full-time and maybe afford Wi-Fi and ramen. And you want to know why nobody wants to work anymore? Because we found out it was a scam. Most of the jobs that go unfilled fall into 3 delightful categories. You'll get experience, not money jobs, the corporate Hunger Games jobs, and horrifyingly the ghost jobs. You'll get experience, not money, are jobs that want a master's degree and a kidney, but pay you in experience and leftover conference bagels. You want me to manage a warehouse, do customer service, and code your website for $14 an hour? Sir, that's a tech sweatshop with Wi-Fi. The corporate Hunger Games jobs, you can get hired, but then it's a toxic workplace with 60-hour weeks, a boss that yells like it's an Olympic sport, and you can't even pee without using your PTO. Surprised? The average worker does over 9 unpaid overtime hours a week. That's a part-time job, for free. Congratulations, you played yourself. You apply. You wait. You hear nothing. Then realize that job never even existed. These are called the ghost jobs. It became clear that the role was more about building a candidate pool than making an immediate hire. HR was just collecting resumes for sport. Let's talk about the villain in every Gen Z origin story, the hustle culture. We were told to grind now, shine later. Except, it's been 10 years and we're still grinding and shining exclusively from the oil on our foreheads. Gen Z saw this and was like, why the f are we building someone else's dream on 4 hours of sleep in a Celsius? So they dipped. Not because they don't want to work, because they don't want to work for your pyramid scheme app startup that pays in equity and sadness. Let's say you do want to work. So you spend 3 hours on an application, attach your resume, write a cover letter, take a 90-question personality test, and never hear back. Companies are ghosting people, and somehow they still have the audacity to post, "Nobody wants to work." Bro, what the f***? You left me on red. I'm not lazy, I'm just emotionally unavailable now. Let's talk money. A survey asked people, what salary would you consider financially successful? Come on, don't be shy. Tell us in the comments what you would like your salary to be. Gen Z said,
I would take a good $600,000.
while boomers said,
I will be happy on my cruise to Italy with 100,000.
but here's the thing. Both of those answers are kind of wrong and also kind of right. Because 100K might have made you feel rich in 1995. Today, in New York City or San Francisco, that gets you a closet apartment and a panic attack. So now we have young people entering a workforce that doesn't pay enough, and employers thinking $15 per hour should buy loyalty, gratitude, and your own island. But excluding students and retirees, the data shows that the working age population is putting in more hours than ever before. Like labor force participation among 25 to 54-year-olds almost at all-time highs. People aren't lazy, they're tired, they're working their asses off, just not in the way we're used to seeing. The truth? Gen Z isn't rejecting work. They're rejecting nonsense masquerading as opportunity. They're not anti-effort, they're anti-exploitation. They've seen their parents grind themselves into dust for jobs that gave them burnout, back pain, and a company-branded mug instead of a retirement plan. So, no, they're not jumping at the chance to follow that same path, with worse pay and fewer benefits. They're walking away from exploitation disguised as hustle culture, burnout passed off as dedication, paychecks that evaporate the second rent and groceries are paid, managers who think dropping a smiley face in Slack counts as team building. Gen Z wants work that respects their time, their health, and their sanity. They want jobs that offer fair compensation, not pizza parties, healthcare, not wellness webinars, actual time off, not unlimited PTO they're guilt-tripped out of using, a chance to touch grass once in a while, literally and metaphorically. They're not lazy. They're just no longer willing to pretend that toxic, underpaid labor is a badge of honor. And really, wanting a job that doesn't suck the life out of you? That's not a radical demand, that's just basic human dignity. We want work that pays fairly and doesn't give us ulcers, not a big ask. So what's really going on? It's not that people don't want to work, it's that people don't want to be underpaid, overworked, and undervalued. This generational disconnect isn't just loud, it's exhausting. Because here's the thing, we're not lazy, we're not entitled, we're just stuck. Stuck between a crumbling economy and expectations built for a world that doesn't exist anymore. We're expected to pay off student debt with entry-level salaries, save for a house with no savings, and work ourselves to death in jobs that offer exposure instead of benefits. And when we push back, even politely, we're labeled difficult. So the next time you hear someone say, "Nobody wants to work anymore," pause and ask, what kind of work? What kind of pay? What kind of life are we talking about? Because people still want to work. They just don't want to suffer doing it. And frankly, that's not asking too much. You want people to work? Try paying them. Let them pee. Offer healthcare that doesn't involve selling a kidney. And maybe don't call your employees family if you're going to fire them via email on Christmas Eve. If we fix the system, people will work. Gladly. But until then, Gen Z is going to stay fun-employed and scroll on TikTok. So no, Karen, it's not that nobody wants to work anymore. It's that nobody wants to suffer for $12 per hour while you yell about how your latte wasn't foamy enough. So, to all the CEOs out there crying into their gold-plated LinkedIn posts about how nobody wants to work anymore, maybe ask yourself, do people not want to work? Or do they not want to suffer for a company that can't even keep a dollar menu alive? Even fast food is too expensive now. Wages stayed the same, but somehow your Big Mac turned into the price of filet mignon. So, if you're wondering why the dollar menu disappeared faster than your job benefits, go check out this video next. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and join the Billionomics family. Drop a comment with your worst job ever or your dream salary. We're reading them all, trust me. See you in the next one.